वंदन करती हूँ। नारी तुमसे केवल श्रद्धा हो, विश्वास रजत न कल में, पीयूष स्रोत सी बहा करो जीवन के सुंदर समतल में। आज हम नारी हित और सम्मान की अपेक्षाओं सहित ब्रेस्ट कैंसर अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम आयोजित कर रहे हैं। भास्कराचार्य कॉलेज ऑफ अप्लाइड साइंसेज, दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय का नेक ए ग्रेड एवं डीबीटी स्टार भास्कराचार्य कॉलेज में जैव चिकित्सा विभाग चिकित्सा संबंधित विभिन्न कार्यक्रमों का आयोजन करता है। वुमेन डेवलपमेंट सेल नारी उत्थान से संबंधित सभी गतिविधियों का आयोजन करता है। ये अवेयरनेस कार्यक्रम जैव चिकित्सा विभाग एवं वुमेन डेवलपमेंट सेल ने मणिपाल हॉस्पिटल के संयोजन में आयोजित किया है। इस कार्यक्रम के लिए मैं भास्कराचार्य कॉलेज ऑफ अप्लाइड साइंसेज के प्राचार्य जी डॉक्टर बालाराम पानी, जो दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय में सभी महाविद्यालयों के अध्यक्ष भी हैं, से का आभार प्रकट करती हूँ कि हम सभी कार्यक्रम उनके मार्गदर्शन में करते हैं तथा हमारे महाविद्यालय में जैव चिकित्सा विभाग एवं वुमेन डेवलपमेंट सेल बहुत ही गतिविधियों का आयोजन करता है, जिसमें सक्रियता देखते ही बनती है। आज का कार्यक्रम का एक अनुपम उदाहरण है। अब मैं डॉक्टर नेहा सिंह जी से अनुरोध करती हूँ कि वे आगे का कार्यक्रम सुचारू करें। ओवर टू डॉक्टर नेहा।
A very warm good afternoon to all present here. I welcome you to this webinar on breast cancer awareness. This is a part of celebrating this month of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This presentation is in collaboration with Manipal Hospitals, the Department of Biomedical Science of Bhaskaracharya College and the Women Development Cell of the college have come together to bring about this event. Women all over the world face the risk of breast cancer. This is a debilitating condition. However, researchers all over the world are working towards creating a world where breast cancer would have no power over lives. The ability to predict a woman's breast cancer risk and early diagnosis techniques are the key to effective management of the disease. With hope in our hearts, we undertake this initiative on breast cancer awareness. Our reputed speakers today are Dr. Piyush Manchal, who is Head of the Department and Consultant, Medical Oncology Sciences and Breast Cancer Management at Manipal Hospitals. He is a specialist in gastrointestinal, gynecological, hematological, and thoracic malignancies. Dr. Anishil Munshi will also be joining us. He is Head of the Department and Consultant for Radiation and Oncology Sciences. He is specialist in breast, brain, and lung cancers, and he is also a radiotherapist. So I request our speakers to please enlighten us on this topic, which is of relevance, which may become of very great importance, is even today of great importance for us. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ma'am, for the kind introduction. I'm Dr. Piyush Bajpai, and besides me is my senior colleague, Dr. Anushil Munshi. We would take you across the screening, the preventive measures, and the screening, how to catch breast cancer early, what are the recommendations, and also the current challenge that India is facing. So, for the benefit of larger audience, I would ask Dr. Munshi that what exactly is breast cancer? Could you please explain?
Screen sharing.
Yeah.
I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, sir. No, I think.
Is the screen visible now?
Are the slides visible to you?
No, sir. Please share your screen or present now.
So please share your screen.
Please click
Sir,
present
are
now.
you able to present? Are you able to present, sir?
Can you see now?
Yeah, it's coming. Aman Raj. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
It's very much
Okay.
visible. So if somebody is not able to see the screen, you can pin the screen, right? It's for the participants.
Yeah, so Dr. Munshi, what exactly is breast cancer? Can you just share some basic information on that?
So good afternoon to everyone, all those who have joined us this Saturday afternoon. So the question is, what exactly is breast cancer? So any cancer is an abnormal growth of cells. And when you talk about breast cancer, it's an abnormal growth of cells in the duct lobular system. So here you can see this is the duct lobular system of the breast. And these cells in this duct lobular system start multiplying on their own, and they do not recognize the inhibitory signals that are supposed to stop them. And that is what leads to this abnormal growth of cells that you are seeing here. And that is what happens actually in a breast cancer patient.
So it means that the cancer cells are from our own body, and it's not that we acquire them from somewhere else. So Dr. Munshi, having said that, would you elaborate the problem that India is facing in terms of breast cancer specifically?
Now, breast cancer is actually a global disease, and India is no exception. So if you see, this is the global cancer incidence. There are 18 million new cancer cases that happen in the world. And this, you can see the distribution all over the globe. And out of these 18 million, approximately 2 million are breast cancer patients. So that is a huge number. And not only that, approximately 627,000 patients undergo mortality every year throughout the world, and that again is a very, very huge number. As far as India is concerned, we have a population of 1.25 billion. There are 10 lakh cancer patients every year. 30 lakh patients exist in our country, and cancer incidence in our country ranges from 58 to 133 per 100,000 patients. Coming specifically to breast cancer, as far as 2018 data is concerned, breast cancer is the most common cancer in women in India, and it accounts for 14% of all cancer in women. And new cases are approximately 1,62,000. Remember that we have around 10 lakh cancer patients in entire country, all combined, and out of which 1,62,000 are breast cancer patients. And out of these, a huge chunk, almost half of these are actually dying every year. 87,000 patients with breast cancer are dying every year. So currently, overall, 1 in 28 women is likely to develop breast cancer during her lifetime in India. 1 in 22 women in urban, and 1 in 60 women in rural setting is likely to develop breast cancer in India. And this is the age-wise distribution. So you can see between starting from the risk starts from around 30 to 34 years of age and kind of tends to go down a bit by around 64 or 65 years of age. This middle age group starting from 35 to almost 60 years is the kind of a group which has most number of breast cancer patients.
So, having elaborated on the problem that India is facing, Dr. Munshi, what actually is the cause of breast cancer?
So, as you know, everything that happens tends to have some reason or other, but sometimes you don't find any specific reason. But we have been able, the medical fraternity has been able to pinpoint some risk factors, specifically in the case of breast cancer. Now these can be broadly divided into genetic factors, environmental factors, lifestyle factors, other factors, and there are many times no known factors. So these are the broad classification of factors that can lead to breast cancer.
So there were certain causes that you elaborated, and amongst them were genetic, then environmental factors. What can be done to prevent breast cancer?
So as the good old saying goes, prevention is always better than cure. But we have to realize that there are risk factors for breast cancer, but some of the risk factors one cannot do anything about. For example, you cannot do anything about age. You cannot do anything about the race. You cannot do anything about the family history, or the onset of menstruation, or the age of menopause. So these are risk factors. There is no doubt about the fact that these are risk factors, but these are the risk factors for which you can't do much. So, but there is hope. There is hope because there are factors for which you can do something, and you must do something. And these are the factors, for example, they can be controlled. For example, the amount of exercise, alcohol, smoking, breastfeeding, or decision not to have children, or obesity. So these are all the factors that are kind of within our control to a large extent. For example, take the example of lifestyle. So gross obesity, tobacco in any form, for example, smoking or anything of that sort, alcohol, especially heavy intake of alcohol, and other factors. These are the lifestyle factors that one needs to be aware of. So healthy weight is a very important thing, and it's important not only for other reasons, but also specifically in the case of breast cancer as a preventive measure also. So one needs to be as lean as possible. We should not become underweight, but we should try to become as lean as possible. And gaining weight needs to be avoided at all ages, whether you are a 20-year-old, whether you are a 30-year-old, whether you are a 50-year-old. You need to avoid gaining excess weight and try to remain physically active. So these are very, very important things that one needs to remember, and often one tends to forget. So the international recommendations, if you see, at least you need to have 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity throughout 1 week. 1 week you should have 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity, or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity activity. Now you decide based on your lifestyle what suits you. You don't need to go over the board or exert yourself too much. Whether moderate suits you, light suits you, or heavy suits you, you can titrate the amount of minutes according to that. And preferably don't try to do everything in 1 day. Okay, my week's quota is over. Try to spread it throughout the week. Now diet is also, and we keep on telling this again and again, that diet can be a very, very important factor, and everything is kind of related, your weight and your diet and things like that. So healthy diet, especially with an emphasis on plant resources, 2 to 3 cups of fruits or vegetables every day, using a variety of vegetables, whole grain, legumes, and so on and so forth. And on the bottom side, you see the things that you need to definitely avoid: sugary drinks, fast foods, processed foods, alcohol intake, preferably stop it. So the other thing is that often we are asked about, okay, what dietary supplement I can take to which is proven that it will give me full protection against breast cancer. The answer to that is there is no dietary supplement that claims, I mean, it's just advertisement campaign, and I don't think we should succumb to those false campaigns. Don't waste money with these overpriced products which you see in the market or on-site platforms. They are of no help in preventing if they claim that they are totally wrong. Best for mothers is to breastfeed exclusively for 6 months, perhaps more, and breastfeeding promotes healthy living and weight control both in women as well as infants. So as I said, and I repeat again, smoking is an important factor not only for other cancers but also for breast cancer. It's enemy number 1. So one should definitely try to avoid or give up smoking if someone is smoking. So my take-home message would be: take all the steps to promote a healthy lifestyle in you and your family. If you're a smoker or use tobacco in any form, stop its use today. And especially, I'm saying this because a lot of youngsters these days, we are seeing smoking And I don't think it's a healthy trend at all, and one should definitely discourage it in all forms. And charity begins at home. We have to look about our own health first. So the other message I have is that regular exercise and taking care of one's diet are again very, very important and essential things. And finally, I would like to conclude my part of the message before Dr. Piyush gives his part of the message. And I would like to conclude by saying that it is health that is real wealth. And as the father of the nation aptly put it, and it's not just pieces of gold and silver that is wealth. Your health is actually your real wealth. Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Munshi. Well, I would be now covering on how to go about detecting this problem early. So
Dr. Piyush, see, the question is that prevention is obviously the first preference, but then we know that in spite of preventive measures and in spite of all these measures that people take, still we find in some cases this breast cancer or a lump or a swelling that turns out to be a malignancy sometimes does develop. But still our aim should be to try to detect it as early as possible. So can you please tell us that why is early detection important to us? Does it really benefit? Does it really benefit to detect breast cancer early? Or even if you wait for some time, you delay it, everything the same. So can you please shed some light on this?
Yeah, before I start, may I ask my audience, since we have changed the PowerPoint, can everybody see the slide currently?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So your question, Dr. Munshi, is why is early detection of breast cancer important? You actually told the right thing. The statistics are showing an increased incidence of breast cancer, and this was 1.62 lakh ladies were diagnosed in 2018. Now the sad part is the mortality, the deaths because of breast cancer, if you look per year, was nearly 80,000 plus, which means that we were losing, out of 2 ladies, we were losing almost 1 person of breast cancer. The reason being is that what in India we are seeing, for the reasons that we do not have a very well-defined screening program system, or we do not have awareness to the level that is required as compared to the Western world. We are getting in our clinics nearly 70% of the patients who come are in a locally advanced or advanced stage. So that is what is the importance of screening. We might not be able to vary the incidence curve. We might not be able to bring down the incidence of breast cancer to a large extent. But what is important is, by early detection and raising the awareness by doing such programs that we are doing today, we can make the people aware of signs and symptoms in symptomatic patients, and then screening by screening tests.
So Dr. Piyush, that brings us to the next question, that most of the diseases that we see in everyday practice have some early signs or early indications or early symptoms. Does breast cancer also give some early signs or symptoms that one should raise a red flag? Okay, I should consult someone for this. Is there anything of that sort for breast cancer?
So you very rightly said that there are early signs or symptoms which one should promptly report to their family physician, their gynecologist, or otherwise to their oncologist. So what could they be? And they are the most prominent ones. The most common one is a lump in the breast. So that is one of the most common ones, and a lump in the breast which usually starts as a painless lump. And now this is a myth that we find, that breast cancer to start with would be a painful, and therefore if a lump is not painful, it might not be breast cancer. So most of the times early breast cancer, if it has to be caught early, the lump would be usually painless until unless it is neglected, and then it starts infiltrating the skin or the muscles, then it becomes painful. Well, then what is important is if a lady is aware about the symmetry of her breast, and that is possible by doing self-breast examination, then one can catch any changes in those symmetry early. Skin retraction is another prominent symptoms which could be there. And likewise, nipple retraction, which is of recent onset, is important. Blood stain discharge from the nipple is again a red flag sign. Eczema or redness of the breast of recent onset is also important. So as one can see in the cartoon, these are the particular signs that I was talking of. One should be aware. One should be aware of these changes happening in the breast.
So that means there are some signs and symptoms that can actually make us a bit alert. But the next question is that how do we detect, actually go beyond this and move to the detection stage?
So detection is it all starts by knowing one's body. It starts from one knows her, a lady knows her own breast by doing a self-breast examination, and it should start after the age of 18 years. The best time being a week after menstrual cycle. That would be the best time. The examination can be done usually under the shower or lying down position or a standing position. Well, there are several protocols available on the internet. The use of finger pads, one can use a massage oil or a shower gel, which can make the perception of the lump very, very sensitive. And the patterns where one should actually palpate or go around touching the breast should be the opposite hand for the breast, and there are patterns up and down. One can go in circles or in wedges, as explained in the cartoon. So these should be examined, and it is also important to note down any findings in the armpit also. It is important not just the breast, but the armpit should also be palpated by the person. So these are the ways one can actually do the self-breast examination every month, and this can help catch up those early lumps or changes, and one can then present to their family physician. It is not a very accurate screening method, but it is something like something is better than nothing, especially in Corona times. Especially one is not able to come out from the house for regular mammograms. This is one of the most important ways to catch these sort of lumps earlier. So other thing is a clinical breast examination, and it is by an experienced or a trained physician or a clinician. Once a lady is going for a clinical visit, the usual way to do it is by a 3 fingers method, and again it is the pads of the fingers, each breast for 3 minutes. If palpated by a trained doctor, then one can actually detect a breast lump or an early breast cancer quite early. And usual position is a lying down position, and it can be done in a routine clinical visit.
So can you also, because I'm sure most of the young or the women that are watching this show, they would have heard the term screening a lot. So for them, for the benefit of the audience, can you please tell us that what does screening mean, and what are the methods of doing screening, and what is the benefit? Are there any pitfalls also? So can you shed some light on this very, very important issue of screening, because that I'm sure is in everyone's mind.
Yeah. So before I start upon screening, The previous two methods, the self-breast examination and the clinical breast examination, are not exactly the screening methods recommended, but these are methods where they empower the self-breast examination, they empower the individual to know about the body, and then bringing such abnormalities earlier. However, what is a screening method? A good screening method is something which can actually catch up asymptomatic or a disease which is not yet showing any sign. So to catch up that part of the disease early in its progress, in its natural history, is a good screening method. And mammogram has actually proven to be one of the good screening methods so far. So it is recommended that once in 2 years, between the age of 40 to 50, and thereafter at least once a year after the age of 40 till at least 70 years of age. There are some recommendations which could be contradictory, saying that some recommendations are once in 2 years, but then at least once in 2 years is also a good methodology. Usually to lessen the discomfort of mammogram, if it is done after a week of menstrual cycle, one can actually lessen the discomfort. So what do you expect when you go for a mammogram? They would ask you to fill a pre-test questionnaire. They could be having some questions related to any previous mammogram, if you have done that earlier, any breast biopsies, any family history of breast cancer, and then each breast is imaged like an X-ray is done. It's an X-ray, actually a low energy X-ray, where it is done in two positions, and one is the horizontal and the other being the diagonal. So this is how it is done. Now, there is a difference between screening and a diagnostic mammogram. So in a screening mammogram, there is an invitation sent to the population, the general people living around the health service area where mammogram is available, and they come and get the annual mammogram done once in a year. But a diagnostic mammogram is done in a person, in a lady who is actually experiencing any of the symptoms I just discussed before, that is any lump in the breast. So there is a difference in terms of immediate reporting, because once you are going for a diagnostic mammogram, you want your report immediately. You want your report after, let's say, 24 or 48 hours. But for a screening mammogram, the reports could be coming after a week or so, which is fine, because the individual went as an asymptomatic individual. So that is the major difference. So the policy is that you can, after doing a mammogram, you can still have certain issues, as in if there is a young lady, let's say a 45-year of age, there the breast could be dense, and therefore the quality of mammogram would fall short, and you would require supplementing it with probably an ultrasound as well. So sometimes the dense breast cause a repeat or an additional test to be done. Apart from this, there are 10 to 20% of cancer which might still not be caught up with a screening mammogram. So you need to have a clinical breast examination, a mammogram done together to increase the catch rate. So when you have done a mammogram, you need to expect certain results, and those results are usually graded in terms of BI-RADS classification, what we commonly term as. Anything which is a BI-RADS 4 and above would require a biopsy to be done. So BI-RADS 4 means that you must go for a biopsy. There is a suspicion of something notorious and a biopsy needs to be done. Whereas anything less than that, probably it requires a close follow-up, or it might require just a regular annual mammogram. So there might be a question in somebody's mind that there is also a MRI which is more sensitive. Well, MRI is definitely a relatively more sensitive method, but then it could end up catching very minute densities or lumps which actually might be benign or not malignant at all. So it is reserved for a certain subset of population which is actually at an increased risk of breast cancer. And an example for that is certain mutations which Dr. Munshi did cover. And BRCA, BRCA gene mutation, is one mutation which is where we consider this test to be done annually. So having said this, me and Dr. Munshi would like to take any further questions on this particular topic. Thank you.
Dr. Neha, we have a
Dr. Neha,
yes.
Hello, sir. There are a few questions. Here there is Kriti KK, who is wanting to know the subtypes of breast cancer.
Yeah. Sorry, your audible. Your voice wasn't very clear. Yeah.
So Kriti KK is requesting to know the subtypes of breast cancer.
So the thing is, breast cancer can be divided into various subtypes on various classifications. For example, breast cancer can be divided into subtypes based on where it arises from. Is it arising from the duct, or is it arising from the lobules? So lobules are a bit far away and ducts are more closer to the nipple area. So based on that, or it can be classified on a molecular level. For example, there are receptors in breast, ER, PR, HER2. So these are the three main receptors. So which is positive and which is negative, based on that we can have 4 classifications. And these 4 classifications are determined after only a biopsy has been done. After a biopsy has been done, we can then categorize the breast into one of these 4 classifications, and these classifications in turn determine the type of treatment that the patient undergoes and also the kind of outcome that the patient will have.
So, doctor, you're muted from your end.
Piniti Surekha has mentioned if keloids is related to breast cancer. Keloids, do having keloids increase the chances for breast cancer?
So just for the information of the audience, keloids are scars that have hypertrophied. So, and they often tend to recur again and again. For example, you excise the keloid, then it tends to reoccur again and again. But there is no connection between a keloid and a breast cancer. So she can rest assured that there is no one-to-one connection or any kind of connection that has been reported in literature between a keloid and a breast cancer. So kindly don't be worried about it.
Okay, sir. So also, if there is pain associated with menstruation, I mean, a lot of women frequently experience it. So we have 2 questions, 2 participants who are inquiring about this as to pain that is associated with menstruation. How seriously would that be considered when thinking about the risk for this disease?
So, cyclical menstrual pain, which is actually there in the breast, usually because of the engorgement of the breast due to hormonal upswings and downswings. But what is important is to realize that this is not associated, this pain is usually not associated with breast cancer. But what is important is that once the engorgement is there, that's not the time for a mammogram or a self-breast examination. It is once the breasts are not painful, not engorged, that is the time to actually go for breast examination.
So just to add to what Dr. Piyush said, one needs to be, as we told in our talk earlier, be breast aware, which means that have a feeling or an understanding of the changes that are happening in your breast throughout the month after month, so that if you find some change, you know that no, this was not happening earlier and this is happening now, and so I should show to a doctor. So if there is something that is happening every month your breast is differing in consistency over a period of time, that is fine, it is happening every month. But if you find there is a change that has started happening, it was not happening earlier, suddenly something new is happening, so that is what is called be breast aware.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. One more question, that if there is a history of cancer in the family, then would it be, how worried should the individual be about breast cancer specifically? Or if there is a history of breast cancer in the family, how worried should one be?
So the question pertains to whether one can have a gene which can be eventually leading to breast cancer. So what is important to realize is somebody in the family has breast cancer, or for that matter any other cancer. Most of the genetic cancers occur at an earlier age, usually less than 50 years. So the relative who is actually having cancer, for example, breast cancer, is she diagnosed at the age lesser than 60 years? Let's say somebody who has an aunt who is 50 or 45-year-old and she's diagnosed with breast cancer, then really it could be a concern, especially if she's a first-degree blood relative. But somebody who is diagnosed, let's say, at the age of 68, the chances of that being a hereditary component in the person who is questioning this, probably the chances then get lower. So the chances that gene mutation would be there, which could eventually lead to breast cancer, would be less. Another important point is that it is not only breast cancer which one should suspect such genetic history. If there is a history of cancer, especially breast and ovarian cancer as well, fallopian tube cancer, or cancer in the males if there are prostate cancers at a younger age. So prostate cancers in males are usually diagnosed 60 plus. But if somebody is diagnosed at an age of, let's say, 50 years, then it could be a real concern. So if one's uncle is actually having a history of prostate cancer at the age of, let's say, 55, then one can be really concerned whether there could be a history of BRCA gene running in the family.
Thank you very much, sir. One last question, that there is a lot of inhibition. One of the participants is saying there's a lot of inhibition and hesitation for women to go for screening procedures. So in spite of the fact that they might do self-examination, but there's a lot of inhibition and that they feel for going for screening. What can be done in such cases? Any suggestions?
It is once you start speaking about these topics, once you start training your younger ones, once you start about being vocal about these in communities, in your friend circles, then you actually realize that you need to empower yourself with this health tool also. So this is a habit, that screening is a healthy habit. So you need to inculcate it, you need to build it up, you need to nurture it eventually. The other thing is that in the pandemic currently going on, yes, getting a mammogram is a challenge, but self-breast examination is important, as we discussed, and we are definitely laying emphasis on self-breast examination. But don't stop over there. Once you would be probably, the individual could be visiting their gynecologist or their family physician for some other reasons. At that time, a clinical breast examination could be a tool which could be, adding on to the information on this. Probably once days are better, then screening mammogram should also be a part of a healthy screening program. Yeah.
The other additional message I want to give is that very often in our OPDs, we are seeing sometimes patients who have just delayed coming because of the COVID issue, because of the onset of COVID. So they said, okay, because of COVID, we didn't want to come to hospital and things like that. So one needs to understand that, as I said earlier, if you find some change, you have, at least at home, you can be doing your regular examination on your own. And once you, if in case you find some change or this thing, then don't delay. Whether it's COVID time or non-COVID time doesn't matter at all. What matters is that you just because of that fear of that COVID thing here and there in the air doesn't mean that you will ignore something that could potentially turn out to be more serious, much more serious than the COVID thing. So that is no excuse for delaying thing once you find something unnatural or abnormal in this thing. So my humble request is that whenever anyone, be it anyone, find something unnatural which was not happening earlier, it is always best, whether it is COVID time or non-COVID time, to go to a specialist and show.
It is a situation we are caught between a devil and a deep blue sea. COVID is definitely important. Certain measures are to be taken care, but not at the risk, as the information we shared, that nearly 1 lakh of ladies we are losing because of breast cancer. This is what COVID has actually led to, quite a similar mortality. It is again a sort of epidemic proportions that we are seeing breast cancer these days.
Sir, is there a link between breast cancer and any other kind of cancers in females?
Link between breast cancer and other cancers?
The kind of cancers, say cervical.
So Dr. Piyush was already saying that there are some syndromes or familial syndromes, especially some mutations could be there or some abnormal genes. But again, this happens in a very small percentage of cases. So don't think that this is happening in every other case. This is probably happening in 2% or 3% of all breast cancer patients only. That you find these kind of some mutations or something which can not only lead to breast cancer, can lead to other cancers such as ovarian cancer or something in the colon or things like that. So there can be situations like this where 2 or 3 cancers are connected through some genetic process, but such situations are not common. They account for only 2 or 3% of all breast cancer patients. So don't get too much carried away that, oh, this is linked to my genes or this is linked to my family, because conclusively we find evidence only in 2 or 5% patients that, okay, yeah, this is linked to some gene or something. In 90-95% of patients, we don't find that genetic reason or influence.
So is there, can fibrocystic breasts turn into breast cancer? Fibrocystic breasts. Can that happen? There is a participant who has.
So fibrocystic disease again is something that is related to estrogen, and it causes some kind of a fibrocystic process in the way you have a lumpy feel of the breast or something. So, but usually it is a benign process. Usually it is a self-limiting benign process. Usually it does not have direct connection to breast cancer. So usually it is a limiting process. In case it turns out to be too bothersome, then you might need some intervention, but it does not have any one-to-one correlation with breast cancer.
Dr. Neha, you are mute. You are on mute. Sir, can I request you, maybe you can use some layman words also, because we can understand, but it might be difficult for few people to understand. Yeah.
Sorry, the voice was echoing.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir, now?
You're not
Yes.
audible, ma'am.
Sir, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I requested you that maybe you can use some layman words so that everybody can understand, because not everybody knows about estrogen, and so that it becomes more meaningful for them. So it's a request. Yeah.
Okay.
So estrogen, for everyone's understanding, is the predominant hormone in females that controls a whole lot of things, whether it's the menstrual cycles, whether it's day to day. For example, in postmenopausal women, during the transient menopausal period also, because of its fluctuations, you have a lot of symptoms. Then in breast cancer also, estrogen has been found to have, it's a hormone, and it's secreted by the ovaries of the ladies. So it is being found to have some kind of a stimulatory action in some cases in breast cancer. So this is what estrogen, so there is a hormone called estrogen, and then there is a hormone called progesterone. And these hormones interplay between themselves. There's a dynamic process going on, and it controls a whole lot of things in the female body. And breast cancer also has got some relation to the interplay of these hormones. For example, we say that, okay, those who have conceived before the age of 30 years, or those who have 2 or more children, they have a slightly lower risk of breast cancer. We say that so because during the period of conception, the estrogens are usually suppressed down. So female breast has lesser exposure, lifetime exposure to estrogen. Similarly, during breastfeeding and things like that also. So all these things influence the overall risk of breast cancer in a lady, and that is why we keep on talking about estrogen and hormones and their interplay.
Okay, sir. There's one more question. Are there any specific exercises for preventing breast cancer?
Are you talking for prevention of breast cancer or for those who have an post-surgery exercises?
So I'm not being able to understand you clearly.
You can tell in both the cases, sir.
Are you talking about exercise to prevent breast cancer, or
specifically for preventing breast cancer? There is a question from.
So also, if you can enlighten about the management also, in that case also, I would really.
So, okay, then I'll answer this in 2 parts. One is what type of exercise. So any brisk walking, simple walking exercise, jogging, walking, but brisk walking, as Dr. Munshi said, moderate intensity exercise is important. It is not only just for the breast, for the cancer, it is for the heart, for diabetes. Most of the metabolic diseases or the lifestyle diseases, the brisk walking is a good exercise which is good enough to prevent these metabolic diseases. The other question was management of breast cancer. Well, I will divide the management of breast cancer into 3 parts. The 3 modalities which actually deal with the management. One is surgery, the second is radiation therapy, and the third being medical therapy. Talking about surgery, we usually now consider preserving the breast if it can be preserved, especially in early breast cancer situation. If it's a small lump, so अगर छोटी गांठ है तो breast को preserve करा जा सकता है. So breast conservation surgery is the word for that, instead of removing the entire breast. Yes, you need to consider the second option also. कभी-कभी पूरा breast हटाना पड़ता है along with the lymph nodes. कभी-कभी जब breast cancer थोड़ा advanced stage में होता है, या फिर हमको surgeon को breast conservation नहीं कर सकते. Number 2, radiation therapy, which I will keep for Dr. Munshi to speak upon. Number 3 is the medical therapy. Well, medical therapy is chemotherapy. Not everybody would require it. There are now certain tests, कुछ ऐसी जांचें हैं जो कि हम करके देख सकते हैं कि क्या हम कीमोथेरेपी नहीं दें. कुछ ऐसी जांचें आ गई हैं अब. और कीमोथेरेपी वैसे अर्ली ब्रेस्ट कैंसर में अभी भी बहुत यूजफुल ट्रीटमेंट है. नंबर 3, टारगेटेड थेरेपी. टारगेटेड थेरेपी यानी कि ब्रेस्ट कैंसर को ही टारगेट करना. कुछ ऐसे ड्रग्स हैं, खास तौर पे HER2 पॉजिटिव ड्रग ब्रेस्ट कैंसर में. हर्सेप्टिन नाम की ड्रग, ट्रास्टुजुमैब नाम की ड्रग बहुत ही लाभदायक साबित हुई है. एक और ट्रीटमेंट है जो कि बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है और डॉक्टर मुंशी बता रहे थे, एस्ट्रोजन पॉजिटिव और प्रोजेस्टेरोन पॉजिटिव ब्रेस्ट कैंसर. वो है हार्मोनल ट्रीटमेंट जो कि टैबलेट के तौर पे होता है. और टैबलेट जो है ये एक ओरल कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव पिल जैसे होती है, उसी प्रकार की टैबलेट जो है एक होती है जो कि लंबे समय तक खानी पड़ती है. लगभग 10 वर्ष तक जो है खाना पड़ सकता है ऐसी टैबलेट्स को. सो ये मोटे तौर पे सर्जिकल और मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट थे. मैं दरख्वास्त करूंगा डॉक्टर मुंशी से वो रेडिएशन ऑन्कोलॉजी ट्रीटमेंट के बारे में कुछ बताएं.
सो जैसा कि डॉक्टर पीयूष ने अच्छी तरह से बताया, सर्जरी, कीमोथेरेपी और रेडिएशन 3 मेन मोडालिटीज ट्रीटमेंट के लिए आजकल उपलब्ध हैं. तीनों मोडालिटीज जो हैं आज की डेट में काफी सेफ हो चुकी हैं. काफी पहले के मुकाबले में दे हैव बिकम मच मोर सेफर, दे हैव मच लेस साइड इफेक्ट्स एज कंपेयर्ड टू अर्लियर टाइम्स. रेडिएशन में अक्सर मेरे से पूछा जाता है कि डॉक्टर साहब अब तो लंप तो निकल गया, तो अभी रेडिएशन की क्या जरूरत है, या ब्रेस्ट तो पूरा निकला जा चुका है तो रेडिएशन की क्या जरूरत है. तो उसका जवाब ये है कि निकालने के बाद भी, क्योंकि ऑपरेशन से जो गठान दिखती है सर्जन वो निकालते हैं, लेकिन उसके बाद बीमारी के कीटाणु जो लोकल जगह पे पॉसिबली हो सकते हैं उनको कवर करने के लिए लोकल रेडिएशन देना जरूरी होता है, जो कि लगभग 3 से 4 सप्ताह तक डेली अस्पताल आके, घंटा भर रोज अस्पताल आके दी जाती है. सो ये मोडालिटीज 3 या 4 मोडालिटीज जो हमारे पास हैं ब्रेस्ट को कैंसर के ट्रीट करने के लिए बहुत ही सेफ हो चुकी हैं. 20 साल पहले जो था और आज जो है, मैं सोचता हूं कि बहुत ही ज्यादा एडवांसमेंट हो चुकी है और बहुत ही कंफर्ट लेवल ज्यादा रहता है पेशेंट्स का अब ये ट्रीटमेंट्स लेते हुए. तो ये बहुत ही अच्छी बात है और ये बहुत ही important information है जो मैं आपसे शेयर करना चाहता हूँ.
Okay, sir. Sir, another question that how much is early menopause a risk for breast cancer? Early menopause as a risk factor.
So जैसा कि मैंने पहले भी बताया, early onset of periods and late menopause both are risk factors for breast cancer. दोनों risk factors हैं. एक मैं नहीं कहता हूं कि hugely increase हो जाएगा, थोड़ा सा बढ़ गया menopause का onset का टाइम तो बहुत ज्यादा, पर ये छोटे छोटे फैक्टर्स माने गए हैं. जांच जिनकी हुई है over a period of years, 20-30-50 साल में जो रिसर्च हुई है, तो उससे हमें ये पता चलता है कि ये फैक्टर्स, क्योंकि वही हार्मोन वाली बात है कि हार्मोन एस्ट्रोजन लेवल हाई रहता है. जब तक मेनोपॉज नहीं आए तब तक एस्ट्रोजन लेवल बॉडी में हाई रहता है, और मेनोपॉज होने के बाद एस्ट्रोजन लेवल की मात्रा कम हो जाती है, और इसीलिए एस्ट्रोजन लेवल भी एक रिस्क फैक्टर माना जाता है. इसीलिए हम बोलते हैं कि लेट मेनोपॉज इज आल्सो अ रिस्क फैक्टर.
So when do you categorize menopause as late or early? Like what is the age limit? How would you categorize?
There is no age for a menopause. It depends on the individual. It also depends.
Yes.
It also depends on the family history. But usually, what we see in India is after the age of mid-40, the menopause usually starts happening. Menopause is not just as Dr. Munshi rightly pointed out, it's not just being a stoppage of menstrual cycle. It is a whole lot of changes in the body because of the estrogen level, the ovarian function going down. Ovaries function for a period of certain time. from the age of menarche, that is after the menstrual cycle starts, till a certain age of nearly 30 years. And thereafter, the function starts diminishing. And that diminishing function actually affects the menstrual cycle. That comes to probably cessation eventually after intermittent cycles. And also it affects the bone health, the cardiac health also. So it's not just the menstrual cycle, it is eventually the estrogen levels in the body, the hormonal levels in the body, which determines menopause. And usually it is after the age of 45.
So what are the general symptoms you generally see for menopause, except for the changes in the menstrual cycle?
It could be changes in terms of hot flushes, as in sudden feeling of warmth, sitting in a temperature where the ambient room temperature is normal, where ambient room temperature is comfortable. It could be skin irritability, mood irritability. Those symptoms could come as a part of it.
Okay, sir. So any kind of just discharge from the nipples is also can also be a symptom for this disease?
A blood stain discharge could be a symptom of disease. However, it is not essentially that a blood stain discharge, there would be a breast cancer mandatorily. But yes, in some situations, one should, whenever one is actually seeing this particular situation, a blood stain discharge should immediately be reported.
Okay, sir. Another question, that a general increase in breast size, can that also be a symptom for this disease? A general increase in breast size.
So see, as I told earlier, if bilateral, both the breasts are actually of the same size, or both the breasts have increased in size a bit over a period of years, or this thing, so that can be a normal process of the human body over a period of time. But unnatural increase in one-sided breast compared to the other side, then you should become a bit more. Usually breasts are more or less of the same size, are symmetrical, and that is why we keep on telling you that you can observe yourself in mirror also with your arms up and see the breast and examine the breast, because then you come to know about the symmetry, you come to know about the similarity in both the breasts, and if one of them is suddenly showing some change or this thing, then you should get concerned, otherwise not.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Shivani ma'am.
I'll just end with last question. Is stress related to breast cancer?
Yes, stress is also related to breast cancer, as it can also bring about changes in hormonal levels. So yes, it is eventually related to breast cancer as well.
Okay.
It reflects that one is not having adequate exercise. One is actually, the metabolism might not be good. So stress is not just the mental stress, but of course, there could be a lot of generation of oxidants in the body, which could actually bring about breast cancer changes.
Yeah. So just last one question, from Asha Singh. She is a breast cancer survivor. So my type was triple positive. So breast conservation was done. I have done completely hysterectomy. So are there any chances of reoccurrence?
Well, in such a program, it would not be fair for us to answer any questions on recurrence for a particular individual, because we are not really sure about the stage and the other specifics. So, yes.
Would it be possible if you can share your emails or numbers, so that anybody who wants to talk to you personally can get back to you?
So after the program, I think the organizers will share the contact details, and definitely they can forward they can forward their query to us.
Okay. Okay, sure. So will it be possible that somebody can share it in the chat group so that people, the participants, pick up from here? Yeah. And sir, maybe just one last, sum up of the event. Maybe if you can share the mantra, so that we can prevent breast cancer. Just your sum up, kind of a thing.
So I would like to say that talking about it, teaching your younger ones, teaching your friends, speaking about this more frequently is going to convert, is going to eventually nurture a very healthy habit about being breast aware. And then one can actually consider doing a self-breast examination regularly, be particular about it. And then one would also be particular about mammograms. So all this starts once you speak about it, you are aware, make others aware, be the teacher. So it all starts from there. Once you start teaching and spreading this word in the community, then you would definitely be more responsible about yourself first, and it all would start from there. That's what I would like to say about
maybe
this.
something about the lifestyle and the diet, if you want to sum up.
So about lifestyle and diet, I have already told the main important information about keeping regular physical activity. That is very, 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 very important, and spreading it throughout the week rather than concentrating in just one day, and maintaining it day after day, month after month, year after year. That is the key. You don't have to just get suddenly inspired, do it for a few days and then give it up. So avoid excessive fat, and but don't go into the side of anorexia and leanness. You avoid both extremes, and then obviously avoid junk food and high fat food. So all these things are the mantras for a healthy lifestyle.
I would just like to add what Dr. Munshi said. Indian diet is a very good diet. We should actually adopt the diet what has been there in our culture. It is quite adequate, rich in fiber, rich in antioxidants, nutrients. So I think so. Instead of going for any specific fancy diets, I would recommend that as regards to diet, what we cook at home, what our grandmothers, mothers have been cooking at home is quite good enough.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. May I now request Dr. Geeta Mongia, who is the convener WDC, to offer the vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Shivani. I was just very much thinking about it, that such a wonderful and a informative session that we could have with both of the doctors with us. And what the takeaway I could get it from here, that as the breast cancer nowadays is a very spreading at a very fast rate, because that is only because of the lifestyle change in the lifestyle of the people. And what I could take out is that main we have to take care is that the physical activity, which is very, very important for us and for our girls also. Because now, as we see that because of the lockdown conditions, physical movement has also further has been restricted. Everybody is in front of the computer and everything is nowadays just an online thing. So the physical activity has been restricted. So we have to encourage ourselves and our girls also to do some physical activity every day for half an hour at least. So that is what my take away from this. And then another important thing which I could find from here is that the diet, as sir said very rightly, that Indian diet is a very nutritious and complete diet. So we don't have to limit ourselves to particular options. If we do our home food every day, that will make us more healthy rather than going for any particular type of a thing. And the third important thing which I could take out is that the self-examination, as sir said, that we should after the age of 50 at least, I think we should keep ourselves checked. I wish everybody should have a healthy and good life. But then screening has to be done if there is any sudden change which is observed from yourself. So, and I formally extend my vote of thanks to our resource persons, Dr. Piyush and Dr. Anushil, for taking out your valuable time and spreading so much awareness among peers, so that we could have the more awareness and we can talk about it at least at some platform. We are in a position to talk about it. Earlier, it was just we never used to say anything about it. But now the situation is at least that we are having a word with each other and we can discuss our problems with you. And then we are very much thankful to the Manipal hospitals for this awareness program, this outreach that they have extended and make us so much beneficial about the program. And now I would like to thank our principal sir, although he could not make out because of his busy schedule. He has been the dean of the colleges and with all other important portfolios. But still, I am thankful to him that he gave us liberty to work with all these activities, and his continuous support encourage us to do all the programs under his guidance. And then I also thank our co-convener, Dr. Shivani. That was her initiative actually. She coordinated with Manipal Hospital and all the program was sorted out. And I would also like to thank our coordinators, Dr. Neha Singh and Dr. Shvetambari, for taking out time and doing such a collaborative effort. And finally, I would like to thank all the participants. So they took very much of interest and they had so many queries and they could have an interactive session with you. Thank you all once again for this program. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So it's a wonderful initiative by Manipal Hospital, and we would like to collaborate with you in future, endeavors. And like we keep listening to many diseases, and like you have been conducting seminars. So like ours is a biomedical sciences department, and our students are, learning physiology, pathology, biochemistry. So we would really like to be, a collaborator with you in future.
Definitely. Most welcome.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Okay.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your valuable time.
Thank you.
Yeah, the feedback link. Yeah, ma'am, you want to say something? Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just adding up to it that earlier also we used to have the collaborative initiative that we had last year on the International Women Day. We collaborate for a awareness program and we had a signatures campaign, and that was also with the Manipal Hospital. So we have been quite a good neighbors and we keep doing activities with you. So we will be happy to continue this trend further.
Yes.
Sure.
And we had done in like previous year, we had done about cervical cancer as well. So
Yes,
that was
we
really
done.
informative, and the doctors.
Yeah, we had come
Now
over
with
to
the
your
COVID time,
Yeah.
with the COVID time, it has become easier. Like we can do it virtually as well, So
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very
Thank you so much. Thank you, Geeta ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Shvetambari. Thank you, Neha. Thank you,
And
everyone.
I hope all the participants are filling up the feedback form. Certificate will be issued once you fill up your feedback form. And thank you everyone for your time.
Yeah, please do fill up the like feedback link so that we get the feedback and we can improve upon it. So it would be very valuable for us, your feedback. Like please fill up your name correctly, because in the feedback form, whatever the name you fill in, you will get the certificate in that name only. So kindly be very careful while you're filling the feedback. Ma'am, anything you want to add, ma'am? Neha? Nothing.
No, ma'am. I just
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to conclude my
yeah.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you for such a nice coordination for the program.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was
ma'am.
quite a questions, lot of
You coordinated quite nicely.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Shvetambari is very nice. Where is Shvetambari, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here only.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
I'm switching off the recording so that we can have an informal discussion.
Yeah. Now the program is
Okay.
done.
The program is over. kindly fill up your feedback and you can leave. Thank you so much for coming in and giving your valuable time.
Somebody